Romanet family was instrumental for development of racing in France since over 100 years.
It's been a wonderful family for racing. We were very lucky.
Well, I mean, I think they've been central to European and I'd go further and say global racing, but not only to the racing industry, but to the thoroughbred industry also.
Without the Romanet family's influence in racing, I don't think racing will be the global sport that it is today.
At the turn of the 20th century, two brothers have caught the racing bug. In 1907, French racing authorities recruit Maurice Romanet, a small owner and contributing sports writer who had worked for the Ministry of Finance. His younger brother René joins in 1919. To avoid confusion at the Société d'Encouragement, the second Romanet will go by their mother's maiden name, Riondé, already his nom de plume. 1920. France stages the first edition of the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe. Inspired by the victory parade at the end of the First World War, René Romanet names the race after the Paris monument. Upon the death of his brother, René takes the helm. He oversees the revolutionary installation of the Longines Totalisator, the spreading network of nationwide PMU betting shops, and innovates with nighttime racing in Longines. He will continue to lead through perilous times, sharing his vision with his son Jean, another writer in the family. Jean signs with his anagram.
He was a very good writer. He wrote a lot of articles about breeding. And then he got involved with Monsieur Boussac. And then he took care of his breeding operation and they made a great pair, the two of them.
In 1961, Marcel Boussac brings Jean Romanet on board as managing director of the Société d'Encouragement.
Oh, he was a wonderful man. He spent his life for racing. And he was strict. He knew what he was talking about and people had to get behind him and that was it.
A rigorous grip needed to undertake the renovation of Longines, the newsstands being wheeled in time to reopen within a year for the 1966 ARC.
I only met him towards the end of his career, but he was polite enough to give me time to explain things to me, and you could see that you were in the presence of someone very special.
I had the great pleasure as a very young man to meet Jean Romanet. And what impressed me most was his ability to bring different opinions together. And one of his secrets was his diplomacy. When he over lunch, over a wonderful red wine, brought people together. Jean Romanet was a very visionary person who understood the necessity of global cooperation. He, in 1967, founded and initiated the first international racing conference, where he brought the key international stakeholders together to discuss and to develop policies which would guide the development of racing around the globe.
A guide of choice as Her Majesty the Queen's colours triumph in the 1974 Prix de Diane. Learning the ropes with his father since 1968, Louis will soon take charge.
Louis is a lot like his dad. He follows the step of his father. He knows what he's talking about and he's very smart, very international-minded.
Certainly one of the most knowledgeable individuals alive at his time about global thoroughbred racing.
Les gens avaient une approche de Louis Romanet comme un homme autoritaire, prenant des décisions fermes, directes. Mais ce qu'ils ne savaient pas, c'est que avant de prendre une décision et de se faire une opinion pour pouvoir manifester une autorité, il était très à l'écoute.
What we had noted was that major sports events in Europe usually were weekend events. They were not one-day events. So we decided that we would try to make the weekend, the Chiga weekend, which meant sponsoring 2 days of racing. Louis Romanet picked up the idea very vigorously, and we had a wonderful discussion about how you would build a unique weekend of thoroughbred racing in Europe. And we came together around the idea that we would have to have a race for every type of individual in the thoroughbred business, from 2-year-olds to older horses, colts and fillies, and try to concentrate group races in that weekend And that's what actually happened.
Before retiring from France Galop, Louis Romanet had negotiated the art partnership with Qatar, signed in 2008.
I would say Louis' greatest achievement is the current world standing of French racing. It's amongst the best racing in the world. French horses, French jockeys, French trainers are respected around the world. There's a good funding system in French racing, and Louis was at the helm when all that was being moulded and put in place. So I think the standing of French racing is a real tribute to Louis.
With his long reign of the International Racing Federation as the first and only chairman since the year 1994, Louis transformed the International Racing Conference into the International Federation of Horse Racing Authority as a full-fledged racing organization.
My knowledge of international racing and my activity only goes back to 2010 when I was appointed president. And at the time, I sought some advice from my predecessor. His name's Alan Marzelli. I asked Alan, what should I do? What advice should I follow? And he had one very succinct recommendation. He said, Louis Romanet is the person that he respects the most in all of international racing and breeding, and I should listen to him and take his counsel.
Louis was a leader to ensure that with our partnership with Longines, we have secured the long-term future of the Federation. This long-term partnership enables us to develop the sport to new heights.
Louis, tout au long de sa carrière, a constitué une collection évidemment autour du cheval et autour des courses. Et après la disparition d'Isabel, il a eu l'extraordinaire amitié pour Deauville d'offrir sa collection pour le futur musée de Deauville, qui s'appelle les Franciscaines. Il y a de tout dans sa collection. Il y a des dessins, il y a des aquarelles, il y a des tableaux, il y a des bronzes, il y a des documents qui racontent l'histoire des courses.
Without the vision and the drive of the Romanet family, we would have not achieved what we have achieved in world racing.
So now it's routine for horses to travel from Europe to compete in Australia, from Japan to compete in America, all over the world, and that's facilitated by the work of the Romanet family.